The Battle of Endor was intended to be the ultimate triumph of the Galactic Empire, a decisive encounter that would crush the rebellion and showcase the indomitable strength of the New Order. It had the opposite effect. The astonishing rebel victory instead left the Empire crippled, and with its emperor dead, it entered a period of decline from which recovery would be impossible. Even at its height, the imperial system was rigid, with a leadership structure that encouraged competition and rivalries as a method of ensuring control. In the absence of a clear successor, any kind of institutional decision-making process, or even basic levels of trust and cooperation at the highest levels, the fragmentation of the Empire was inevitable. At the time of the Battle of Endor, the Imperial Starfleet had been the greatest military force in the galaxy. In the days that followed, it was divided between petty tyrants, aspirant despots, and rival factions. New warlord states were carved into existence, the authority of their rulers based solely on the military forces they were able to claim as their own. Some aspired to be nothing less than a true successor of the Empire, others as rivals to the hegemony of the New Republic. The Pentastar Alignment of Powers was neither. It had no lofty ideals or higher ambitions, just a cowardly selfishness and cynical void. The history of the Pentastar Alignment begins and ends with Ardus Kane, whose career had peaked when he was appointed Grand Moff of Over-Sector Outer, replacing the late Wulhuf Tarkin. Though he initially viewed his role as a personal rebuke, an exile from the core worlds cloaked in the veneer of title and pageantry, his new role afforded Kane several advantages. The greatest was command over the Outer Rim Imperial Fleet, and in particular, the elite Scourge Squadron, which had as its flagship one of the few Executor-class star dreadnoughts, the Reaper. With little interest in aligning himself to other emerging Imperial warlords, Kane instead moved to create his own successor state. He abandoned most of the Outer Rim, and instead consolidated his power in the Velkar Free Commerce Zone, known for its powerful business interests and use of enslaved primitive labor. In a meeting aboard the Reaper, a venue whose symbolic and practical importance was easily appreciated by all those that attended, Kane positioned himself as the only method of ensuring the zone remained stable. He tactfully rejected any accusations that he aspired to the role of emperor, and instead proposed a new conglomerate of local governments and corporations. Kane's political wherewithal, bolstered by his own personal fortune, and the forces under his command, was instrumental. By the end of the talks, the Pentastar Alignment had been declared, its name derived from the 5 most prominent parties that participated in the negotiations. Over the course of its brief 8-year existence, the Pentastar Alignment remained largely isolationist. Its new power structure, with Kane at its apex, was stable only so long as neither its corporate base nor its military apparatus was threatened. In accordance with this policy, the Alignment sought to limit its external interactions with other powers, effectively minimizing the influence and interference that had destabilized and undermined other imperial rump states. Its government created a self-contained system designed to support the status quo and enrich those at its highest levels. Even the return of Grand Admiral Thrawn and his last-ditch effort to consolidate the greater empire failed to sway the Pentastar Alignment to his cause. They would contribute only meager forces before the end of his campaign. The resurrected Palpatine, however, possessed a far greater legitimacy, and several factions within the Alignment, including Kane, openly supported him. For the first and only time, Pentastar fleets left the boundaries of their enclave, joining the wider war against the New Republic. Yet the reborn Emperor's plans never reached fruition. Though Alignment forces successfully penetrated deep into the core worlds, Ardus Kane himself was killed when his shuttle was ambushed by New Republic starfighters. In the wake of Palpatine's second and final death, and the Alignment now as directionless as the Empire it had formed from, Gilad Pellaeon formally annexed the state into his own imperial remnant. It vanished from galactic history as quickly as it formed, now merely a part of another power, struggling for relevance in the new era. At its height, the Pentastar Alignment was spread across 14 sectors and exerted unrivaled authority across hundreds of worlds. It described itself as a political conglomerate, a confederacy of planetary administrations, corporate interests, and power brokers within the Velkar Free Commerce Zone. Its capital was located in the historic world of Entrala, with government bodies based in Nexus City. The government of the Pentastar Alignment was eager to mimic the rhetoric and conventions employed by legitimate governments, but its military and corporate origins seeped into its internal framework. The role of its state institutions were muddled, lacking any coherence or clarity. Even at the highest levels, the Alignment's government included a convoluted amalgamation of concepts and terminology that, rather than creating the air of credibility, only served to highlight the internal tensions between its heritage and the trappings of formal governance. Outsiders and even Alignment citizens often found it challenging to fully comprehend the function and purpose of Pentastar institutions. Ostensibly, the government of the Pentastar Alignment was split, divided between two overarching bodies: Order and Enforcement. Order was described as a lower legislature, though its responsibilities extended well beyond the duties typically expected to such an institution. Sub-organizations within Order included the Proletariat, responsible for maintaining the principles of the old imperial ideology; Insurrection, a destabilization network that attempted to undermine the new Republic; and Protectorate, which provided internal security and judgment. This latter office was known for its division of former Imperial Inquisitors, rebranded within the Alignment as Great Inquestors of Judgment. The Chamber of Order, the highest commanding body within the Pentastar Alignment, likewise attempted to replicate the appearance of stable governance, but was mired in paranoia and consumed by fears of external threats. The Chamber was never gathered in public, and both the location of its meetings and their frequency was kept random. It was predominantly concerned with external threats, and its members more frequently discussed military deployments rather than internal issues. In practice, however, the Pentastar Alignment resembled a military dictatorship. Ardus Kane held a personal veto that could overrule the Chamber of Order, and no institution within the Alignment wielded greater power than his own military forces. It was these forces that made up Enforcement, the second half of the Alignment's government. Swelled by Imperial expats and fleeing the reach of the New Republic, the armed forces of the Pentastar Alignment mostly resembled that of the Galactic Empire. Across its history, though, it increasingly made use of older equipment, some dating back to the Clone Wars. Its premier unit was the Pentastar Patrol, formed from Kane's Outer Rim Imperial fleet, and bolstered by the other Imperial units that took refuge within the Alignment. It was notable for its allowance of non-humans within its ranks, a policy that attempted to reduce tensions across the state, but instead aggravated many of the patrol's most senior commanders. Though it attempted to develop new warships, working with Kuat drive yards to design and produce the Enforcer-class picket cruiser, its Imperial Star Destroyers and the Reaper would represent the most formidable starships in its service. Though historians tend to view the Pentastar Alignment as one of the most successful Imperial warlord states that emerged from the fall of the Empire, its actual achievements were marred by internal divisions, limited territorial control, and a lack of coherent, long-term vision. Its only real success was its policy of isolationism. The duration of the state's existence had more to do with the New Republic's priorities, rather than the Pentastar Alignment's own strength or accomplishments. It was a hermit kingdom that could only survive so long as external pressures and challenges remained minimal or diverted elsewhere. Its brief foray with interventionism consigned the Pentastar Alignment to the dustbin of history, the place where it had always been destined.
The Templin Institute investigates the nations, factions, and organizations of alternate worlds. If you've enjoyed this video and would like to join the Templin Institute, consider pledging to our Patreon page. Along with increased security access, you'll be able to vote in polls to determine future topics, get custom wallpaper every week, and receive some other exclusive rewards.